to share how Christ saved me and has been gracious and still is being gracious to me. So I want to thank you guys for inviting me. My name is Paul Hill. I'm 22 years old. On the street, my nickname is Dayper, or my MC name was Dayper. I grew up on a council estate in southwest London in Roehampton called the Alton Esate, which holds about 13,000 people. So it's actually one of the largest council estates in Europe. So it's a pretty big estate. I grew up on that estate with my mother and two older sisters. My mother was a single parent. She raised us up pretty well. She didn't have much money, but she wasn't into drugs or drinking, and she tried to bring us up right. And I suppose I had a normal upbringing in my primary school days. Loved football. Never got up to anything too bad. But at the age of 13, my grandma died, and had a massive impact on me. And had a dysfunctional relationship with my father. I never really saw him much. So at school I got involved in a lot of things that the youth today get involved in, which is sex, drugs and raving, because rock and roll really weren't my thing. But that was the life I chose. And by the age of 14 I dropped out of school. I wasn't going to school, and I was just bunking, doing a lot of drugs, mainly marijuana, doing a lot of weed. I was hanging around with a group of lads that were actually selling it as well on the estate, so I was around it constantly, just getting wasted, and I really enjoyed it. You know, I really enjoyed getting wasted. I did a little bit of music and MCing, so I had a bit of reputation around my area, and I wasn't the worst around the area, but I wasn't the best either. And so I actually enjoyed my sinful lifestyle. I enjoyed the women, I enjoyed the drugs, I enjoyed the reputation that I had on the estate, that people knew me. And so, yeah, that's the life I lived. And then at the age of 15, I got involved in a street fight in which a 40-year-old man and some about 20-year-olds, about 3 of them, I got stabbed in this fight. I was only 15 at the time. I got stabbed pretty bad in my side. It actually nicked my liver. So I was close to dying. And that really had a massive impact on me, because that's when I thought, you know, this is serious. You know, I've nearly died this day. Made me really think about life, but I was still trapped in my sinful habits, my sinful lifestyle. And it was at this time when I really actually wanted to change. I knew that what I was doing was wrong. I knew that I was doing really bad things. My mum was very upset. She was kicking me out of the house, and I was running away. I went through a period of just living on the streets, sleeping in abandoned cars, just sleeping in the blocks. And my main thing was really, I loved getting wasted. I loved doing drugs. Mainly marijuana, and then when I got to about 15, I started doing a lot of harder drugs: cocaine, MDMA, ecstasy, and it was at that point when all the things that I loved doing became just worthless, and I was really sad and depressed, and I didn't want to live anymore. Life had just become meaningless to me. I didn't know why I was alive. The drugs I was taking weren't doing anything for me. I remember once I had this weekend of just raving, taking loads of drugs and sleeping with loads of women, and I woke up on a Monday just thinking, is that it? Is that what life is about? And I was trapped, I was lost, I was so depressed. I even went to the doctors to ask, what's wrong with me? I'm waking up, I don't want to live anymore. I'm not brave enough to commit suicide, but you know, I want to commit suicide. I don't want to live anymore. And she didn't really have any answers for me. And there were times when I'd wake up and I'd just walk, and I didn't even know where I was going. I'd just walk for miles, Roehampton to Collier's Wood, and back, and just not knowing, just lost, a lost soul. I didn't know where I was going. I was trapped. And so for ages I wanted to come out of this lifestyle, and I just didn't know how. I was surrounded by drug dealers and people that smoked. So even though I didn't want to smoke, I'm around it all the time, so I'm smoking it anyway. And I just couldn't get out of it. And one day, amazing, I'm just in my living room and I see a Bible on a shelf. And I thought to myself, wow, I've never read the Bible before. What does God think? Maybe he's angry. I'd never been raised in a church, never been told about Jesus. But this is the way I was thinking. And so I thought, wow, I better read it. So, I did. I started reading it from the beginning, from Genesis. And I was really interested in it. It spoke about the creation, 7 days God made the earth. And I thought, wow, that's why we have a 7-day week. And little simple things like that were really speaking to me. And I always had a problem with death. Why do we die? And seeing that we wasn't supposed to die and Adam sinned. And that really answered my question. So I took my Bible out that night, went to see my friends with my bottle of vodka and told them, hey, I'm reading the Bible. And they were like, great. And we were just chatting about it. And there was a friend there he went to a church, but he didn't really live his life in a way that showed he was a Christian. But he said, do you want to come? Do you want to come to this church? And I was like, yeah, wonderful. So we were going up the estate, and by coincidence or divine providence, but we were going up the estate to make a drug deal, and the church was on. And he said, I really want you to go up there. Someone there I want you to meet. And it was a vibrant Pentecostal church. So we get in there and the speaker's like, come down, sit in the front. So here we are, in this front of this church. And this guy's just preaching, and it's this very strong African dialect. I don't understand a word he's saying, but, I'm very interested. And after, at the end, this lady comes up to me, and she said to me, she showed me warm affection, and she held my hand, and she said, God loves you. And that really spoke to me, because I'd never heard that in my life, that God loves me. And I thought, what do you mean God loves me? You don't even know what I got in my pocket right now, And I walked away really thinking, what am I doing? Why am I selling drugs? I don't even enjoy it. It's a hassle. And someone said to me, are you going to come back? So I was like, yeah, I was going to come back. So then the Sunday came and I woke up too late for church. And again, that guilt feeling came back, saying, why didn't you go to church? You should have went to church. I felt really guilty again. So I just decided on that Thursday night, I'm going to go to church. I don't care if anyone else is going. I'm going. And in a way, I wouldn't say it was a vision, but I just knew I was going to go there. And there was going to be no one there, just the pastor. And he was going to explain things to me, because I knew nothing. I didn't even know Christian. All I knew was Protestants and Catholics. I didn't know anything, so I was really nervous. And I plucked up the courage to go in there. And lo and behold, it's just a pastor in there. So I'm like, whoa, that's a bit freaky. And he sat me down and he just explained the gospel. He worked out after a couple of questions I wasn't a Christian. So he sat me down and simply explained what the gospel was. He explained why we die and our sin nature and what Adam did and what Christ came. And that he represented us on a cross. He lived a perfect life. And he died in our place to take God's wrath on himself instead of on us. And that he was raised as the proof that he was who he said he was. And now he's at the right hand of God the Father, where he sits on his throne. And I just believed it. I didn't have any skepticism. It made sense. I could see it in nature. I could see even the people that I thought were good, they were sinners. They did bad things as well. You didn't have to convince me I was a sinner. I knew that. And from that day, I just said, let me live my life how this asked me, and see what happens. I got nothing to lose. So I did, I started reading the Bible daily. I was praying. I phoned up my circle of drug dealers and told them, I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore. Have my share. I don't want it. And we were close friends, so they were fine with it. Obviously, they thought, what's going on? He's a bit weird. And it was around this time when I started doing that everyone just started to say nasty things. Why are you going to church? Why are you going up there? And I was on my own. I had no Christian friends up there. The pastor there wasn't even from the area. So I was just following this path I didn't know much about, with no support. And I just prayed to God. I said, God, please would you send someone? And I was just praying in my head and never prayed out loud then. And when God answers a prayer, he really, really answers the prayer. And